For years, people have been saying that the Corvette can compete with world-class supercars. You know what? I say the Corvette C8 Z06 is a world-class supercar, and I have the track numbers to prove it. Let's cut right to it. The C8 Corvette Z06 is officially the fastest car to ever lap our test track. I'm telling you that right now at the top of the video because it's not really a surprise. We expected the Z06 to take over that top spot. After all, the Z51 had reigned in that top spot until the Z06 came along. But the interesting part is how it did it and how accessible the performance of this car is. 1 minute, 12.99 seconds, the car actually broke into the 112s, which is very rarefied air at the firm. That is the repository of full-on race cars, high horsepower, sticky tires, lots of aero. It is a very impressive accomplishment for a Z06 that was in as delivered condition right off the showroom floor. I can't overstate how accessible the performance of this car is. Part of that is due to the fact that it does have a bit of a natural tendency to understeer. It becomes sort of a hard cap on just how fast you can negotiate corners. But instead of a limit, it actually gives you the ability to experiment a little bit, to alter your line midline. Even though things are happening very quickly, the road is going by very, very fast, you still have control with this car where you are not just a passenger. You are an active participant in every contact patch, in all 4 of those contact patches at the road. And things are happening very quickly, but you still have the ability to alter what is going on in real time. That is the mark of a true driver's car. If you want to know more about the C8 in general, all of these C8s are built from the same architecture, whether it be the base model, the Z51, or even the Z06. Many of the parts that this Z06 gains performance from are basically bolt-on parts or retunings of existing parts. So if you want to see a deep technical dive on the entire C8 chassis, you can check out one of our other videos right here. For the longest time, Corvettes have been spoken of in terms of, well, it's amazing what the Corvette can do despite the fact that it's a mass-produced car from GM. It's great for a Corvette. I think what we're seeing with the C8 Z06 is we are now seeing the Corvette, instead of becoming something that is talked about in terms of how it competes with the world's other great supercars, we are seeing it make a legitimate case for being the metric by which so many of those supercars are measured. Look, I'm racking my brain. I do not know that I can think of another car that could honestly challenge this thing to a lap at our test track that doesn't cost more than $500,000. I think to find something that will challenge this thing off the showroom floor, you're looking at brands like McLaren or Ferrari. I mean, maybe there's something from AMG way out on the pointy end in a black series, but we're talking about something you can walk into a Chevy dealer and at least order, if not buy. And at some point, these things are going to be available in showrooms in a beautiful future that we all look forward to. And that is going to be an impressive day indeed when this kind of performance is available off the shelf from an American manufacturer. But what's really impressive is just how well it puts power down from that 670 horsepower engine. And that's a combination of not just chassis tuning and some very sticky Michelin tires, but a really interesting throttle mapping arrangement. So first off, the throttle travel on the C8 Z06 is kind of long. In fact, it was almost awkwardly long when I first started driving it, and a lot of the throttle actuation is biased towards, probably the last 35 to 40% of the throttle travel. So you've got this long travel and you've got this very powerful engine. The result is it takes away some of your resolution in the lower part of the RPM range, which actually acts as a great way to sort of mitigate torque and minimize chassis interruption. When you're balancing the car in the corner at steady throttle, way below the threshold, say 20, 30, 40% throttle, you've got more room to play with. You have less resolution with that throttle. So you can actually make kind of a clumsy move with your foot without upsetting the chassis balance of the car too bad. Then you see the exit, You start to unwind the car towards the exit, and you've got a lot of throttle travel at the end there to get down to full throttle. Once you attune your muscle memory to that though, it's absolutely spectacular. It actually gives you a little bit of a margin of error to be a little bit less precise with that throttle and still be able to unleash all 670 horsepower at corner exit. One of the things that really surprised me is in low speed corners how well the car puts power down. Second gear corners, you did not have to work that hard to get to full throttle on exit of second gear corners. Now partially it's the way the engine produces power. It's got this climbing, swelling torque curve that never really hits you too hard at any one time. So it actually does a great job at maintaining traction on those exits. But great chassis tuning and the ability to control the throttle very precisely also contribute to a fantastic ability to put down power from the corners. Also need to throw a very special thank you out to reader Carrie Lee, who provided the Z06 for our testing. Now, usually we source test cars from manufacturer press fleets, but being down in Florida and the bulk of the GM press fleet being out west or in Detroit, it was difficult for them to get us a Z06, but Kerry was gracious enough to provide his Z06 for testing. In fact, he had just come from an entire weekend at Sebring where he darn near drove the tires off the thing. So rest assured that at least this Z06 is not spending its life in a bubble. It is spending its life as GM intended, and that is on track. Okay, finally, let's take a look at the data. First thing you notice is that it definitely does have a power advantage. We will zoom in on the first place it shows the power advantage, which is right here heading out of the firm's turn 3. You can see the C8 with the blue trace gets a better run through this right-left combination. Now it does have very, very grippy tires on it. It's got a set of 140 treadwear Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2Rs on it. So that is a huge part of the advantage that it sees on track. But the shock tuning on this thing with the FE3 track focus suspension is also really, really impressive. And we'll see just how impressive these shocks are at a different part of the track. But the first thing we see is this acceleration from turn 3. Both the Z51 in red and the Z06 in blue got nice acceleration out of the corner. The Z51 very torquey, a lot of initial thrust. But as soon as we got past about 75 miles an hour, that Z06 just disappears from the Z51 and starts dramatically out accelerating it. Now, the kink, turn 4 at the firm, this is a turn that kind of divides fast cars and slow cars. In fact, if you look at the data traces of all of the cars and you look at the data trace of the both C8s versus all the other cars that we've tested, you'll see that the turn-in speed to turn 4 is dramatically higher for both the C8s, Z51 and Z06 elect. Now, a lot of this is due to their mid-engine layout. Lower polar moment of inertia means that they are much more adept at changing directions and at taking a set much more quickly once they did change directions. In the case of the Z06 versus the Z51, we can see that turn-in speeds were both about the same, probably due as much to driver confidence and track conditions as actual capabilities of the car. But as soon as both cars started negotiating the corner, the Z06 outpaced the Z51 through the corner, which gave it a better exit, which allowed it to accelerate more down the next straight, and because of those amazing brakes, take a much deeper braking line. Even though it was traveling about 5 miles an hour faster at the approach of the next corner, Z06 actually hit the brakes later. At that point, it continued through this pair of 90-degree corners at higher entry speed, higher mid-corner speed, which resulted in higher exit speed, just faster everywhere in those turns 5 and 6, which are both sort of quick, about 80-degree, line it up, brake, turn, accelerate corners. You're not in the corners for very long. It's just a quick direction change. Z06 just completely outpaced the Z51 through there. Here's one of the more impressive parts. This is negotiating the S's at the firm. And we can see that the Z06 completely outpaces the Z51 through the S's. Now let me explain the S's at the firm a little bit. It's really more of a bumpy straightaway in a fast car. It is a series of S's defined by curbs that have a path through them that you can just about straight line through the middle, but you're going to be taking curbs on both sides. So the better your shocks are, the faster you are able to negotiate that section, because it's upsetting the car less, it's causing less weight transfer with the tiny direction changes you are making. And then particularly when you hit the final S and brake for the right-hand hairpin, if you're able to take a lot of curb at the finish, you can line yourself up for a more aggressive braking angle going into that final hairpin. And we see the Z06 absolutely destroyed every other car we have ever tested there through the S's. The shocks are absolutely fantastically tuned. Those FE3 magnetic shocks just made those bumps practically disappear, particularly the last one. I don't care what car you're driving, that last curb is pretty big. You're finally doing a little bit of cornering in the S's. You're making a little bit of a dodge to the left before you brake back to the right. In the Z06, I was able to practically drive straight over the curb, wait even longer to brake before braking in a completely straight line and then negotiating the right-hand corner. And you can see the final braking moment in this section. We enter it faster and we brake at a greater rate because we are lined up so much better to decelerate into that hairpin. Better acceleration down the next straightaway. Much deeper braking into the long left-hand turn, turn 8 of the firm. You can see that little pulsation right there in the data. That is some ABS lockup that we experienced. And we will see that the back half of turn 8, kind of a double apex left, back half of turn 8, much higher cornering speed. We didn't have that characteristic sort of raise and then lower towards the back half of turn 8 as you're gaining some grip in the middle and then losing some grip towards the end. The Z06 just maintained that grip all the way through. It actually made me believe that probably if I had this to do again, I could go faster through that middle section as well. There's probably still more time to be gained out there with the Z06. Finally, coming into the fastest final part of the firm, we see the highest trap speed we've ever recorded by a manufacturer's press loaner, over 120 miles an hour, a full 7 miles an hour faster than the Z51. That extra 165 horsepower really showing itself, particularly once you make that shift up into 4th gear, and just a phenomenal braking moment in that final corner. We're braking as hard from 124 miles an hour as the Z51 brakes from about 116 miles an hour. So those carbon ceramic brakes really showing up impressively there. So what's this all add up to? The fastest car we have ever tested, 123 miles an hour down the front straight at the firm. Oh, hey, by the way, if you ever find yourself driving 123 miles an hour in a Corvette C8 and the law takes umbrage to that, may I recommend representation by the law firm of Like and Subscribe. You can find them down below me. Anyway, I can't overstate how accessible the performance of this car is. Folks, if you like the content we are putting on YouTube here, you can check out all of the content on our channel, like and subscribe, and check us out on the web at grassrootsmotorsports.com. We'll see you next time at the track.
Support brands who support grassroots motorsports. Get your chemical solutions from CRC Industries. To learn more, visit crcindustries.com. Want to see more content like this? Make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. And for more information, visit us online at grassrootsmotorsports.com.